what drew me into the arts was my mother, I guess. She had a studio. It was more of a craft shop back in the 80s, so baskets hanging from the ceilings, and she used to teach how to do floral arrangements. And so at one point, I think I was 13 years old when I started teaching women how to paint. So I was 13. I had 5 classes a week, and in one night there was 6 women. So I would be teaching them how to do folk art. To be honest, I was reading from a book and telling them what the book instructions were saying. I was 13 after all. But yeah, so that's how I got my start, is by teaching to begin with. From there, because she had her studio, I was constantly painting. I was painting every single day after school, and selling some of my works real young. My first mural was, I was 15 years old, and it was a bed and breakfast out in Dowling. So I had to actually take the Cartier school bus from Sudbury Secondary to get to this place on Friday afternoon, and I spent the weekend there and painted a big mural on the wall of like a western scene. And so so I was very young starting the mural, starting the teaching. My mother had a stroke when I was 20. So in the year 2000, it was either she closed the store or I take over. I had already been there and working with her for 7 years at that point. And so I decided that at 20 years old, straight out of high school, that I was going to borrow money and open my own shop. And her store was in Valcairn, so it was called Petal Pushers. So I took that store over and brought it into Sudbury. So I opened my first store at 20 years old in the year 2000 on LaSalle. From there, I was doing commissions and murals and teaching 5 nights a week to begin with. And so that was I was very busy. I was making sure that if I was going to take this on at that age, that I was going to make it work. So I worked really hard. Every day I worked at it, and I'd paint commissions at home and be constantly going, I guess. And that was the best thing I could have done, is the energy I had then, I used it. I always kind of went by the whole you reap what you sow thing. And so I made sure that as many irons in the fire as I can have, I did. The murals kind of went in waves, I guess, in a way. I would have one year where I'd do 75 or 80 murals in a year. And then another year where I'd do 10 or 15, so it really depended on what was popular in the styles at that point. But how I started doing the fine art was more like couch art, I guess you can say. So it was pretty much paintings that I knew the decorators that I worked with would like, and would put them in the clients' homes. And so it was kind of pandering to the styles of the day, I guess, is how I started. But that kind of led me to figuring out what type of art I like to paint. And so that's, So I opened the store at 20 in the year 2000. I keep saying that because that was a big deal for me back then, and it's been kind of what's driven me to get to put as many years as I can. So just to fast forward, when I was passing the store on to you guys, I had actually made it to 24 years. I hadn't hit 25 yet, but I had hit 24. So my artistic process it varies, I guess. As a young girl, when I worked with my mother in her studio, I would refinish furniture, I would paint ceramics, she actually was a ceramics teacher for a long time, so she worked with bisque ceramics, and so I was always big on doing the 3D kind of styling. So when I got to the point where, I hate mentioning when I was sick, but when I got to the point where I wasn't able to paint as clearly for a little while before I had surgery, where I drew my inspiration was through the potters around and trying to create some 3D art, some sculpture style art pieces. And so that gave me a way to continue to create without having to be so fine detailed. And so that was one of the things that kind of saved me, I guess, in a way, when I wasn't able to paint as much and do murals as much. And I would go towards the clay. And to be honest, it's a therapy in its own to work with clay. It's like most men with golf, or women with golf. You get to spend all this time just chasing a little white ball. Um, Clay is in a way the same way, where you can actually just focus on how it feels texturally in your hands, and how it's drying as you're working. And there's just something, I guess, cathartic about it. There's something sweet about being able to work with a medium that, again, a lot of other people do. So it's not like special in its own right. It's not, you don't have to be an expert at it. You just have to want to be creative. So that's where I kind of threw myself over the last year or so, is working with the clay and trying to create. Honestly, I have this thing with mushrooms. I don't know why, but I do. It's been a thing since I was young, so I figure most people will like them. But yeah, so I started creating all of these little mushroom pieces, and I still do. It's been a year, and I can't get tired of that. So that's when you see the mushroom pieces that I've got in the studio at the gallery. It's a therapy in a way that I get to create these pieces. So the history of this place, 172 Elgin. I was on LaSalle for 7 years, at the corner of LaSalle and Rideau. I was in the flour mill for 7 years. And when I was wanting to move, right before I had to move, I was going through a separation with my husband, and it was kind of a big time for me. I was losing my house. I was losing my dogs, my husband at the time. So I was looking for a space, and I kept thinking to myself, it was going to be a space that was going to be only mine. My ex used to work with me back in the day. So it was a space I wanted just for me. The summer before, I had signed up for an art show out in Toronto. So it was a large art show, like the international art show. So there was 1,100 artists from all over the country, all gathering at the International Centre. So that was a pretty big deal for me, and I had painted, I think, 15 or 16 paintings just to bring out there. So I decided that I wanted to have an art show just to show them in Sudbury before I left. So it was kind of a sneak peek of what I was creating, that I thought I'd sell every single one of these pieces down there. So I wanted to make sure Sudburyans got to see them first. I didn't have much of a name back then, but I hadn't found a spot, and I was in between locations. So I was kind of moving out of my other space, so I couldn't have anybody at the other shop. And so I was speaking, I don't know why, I was speaking to my lawyer's wife, who's a beautiful older woman that was just very helpful at the time, and she was very supportive of me, and she'd buy all sorts of stuff for me, get me to do custom pieces. And the one day I kind of confided in her that I was having a hard time, and I couldn't find anywhere, and I was going through all this loss. And she said, you have to meet one of my friends. Somebody just moved out of her spot downtown, she said, and she owns this strip downtown. So she ends up having me meet her here to meet Jane, my landlady. It's funny because I get a little teary-eyed at that. She brought me here to meet Jane. When I met Jane, Jane kindly offered this location, since it was empty. So it was 172 Elgin. The guy had just moved out, I think, the week before, and he was a photographer. She offered it to me for nothing. Again, with all the loss I had gone through, she was kind enough to open the door to this place and give me the key to this place without knowing me, because her friend vouched for me. So I took the key and I set up an art show for one night. My lawyer's son ended up catering the event, which was wonderful. Fried shrimp, that's all you smelled all through downtown, was these whatever. But anyway, so I had my paintings up on the wall, and at the end of the night, I think 4 or 5 people had walked through this place the entire night I was here. So like I said, nobody knew me then. When you're not in the downtown, you're not in the arts community, it feels like. So because I was fresh to the downtown, when I went to lock up that night, I just had this feeling that I didn't want to give her the key back. That here this place was empty, and I had been looking for so long, and to think that everything kind of fell into place because of this one wonderful woman that had a friend. And so I talked to Jane the next morning and I said, I'm not giving you your key back. I'm keeping this place. I'm going to go down south. And I was there for a little over a week for this show. And when I came back, she said the space was mine. And so I was so lucky in the way that like I said, after all the loss that I was experiencing at the time, the fact that things just from that moment on started falling into place. I ripped out whatever carpet was in here. We finished the walls, and I just didn't even have to put anything in storage. I was able to take my stuff out of the place where my lease was over, and just move it right in, and it was flawless at that point. And that was, I want to say 2013, and so from that point on, I was just here. Yeah, 2013, because it was 11 years by the time I passed it on to you guys. I've been very, very fortunate. Like I said, I've been painting murals since I was like 13 years old or 15 years old. I've done so many. It's really hard to pick just one. The one I tend to like to show off the most is the one behind Bayou's books, the laneway behind Bayou's books, which is the big living bookshelf. She liked it so much, and we worked together really well, me and Anne, the woman that owns Bayou's books. So she pretty much basically designed it by telling me the types of books she wanted, and so when I kind of drew it out for her, it was just this perfect match. She liked it so much that we ended up keeping the design going onto the side of the building, where you'll see the lantern and a couple of more books on the side too. That's one of my favorites. But I've also, another one is Pepe Panini's. If you've gone into Pepe Panini's and seen the Tony Soprano. James Gandolfini, I guess. The Tony Soprano character painted in graffiti, all in blacklight paint. So that one's another really cool one I like. But then there's another, which is the Moonglow Auto. I had to paint a couple really fancy cars in that place with the big bridge. I want to say it's from New York, either New York or, that's how much I cared. I loved the aesthetic of this mural, but don't ask me where it's from. But yeah, so I had to paint a couple high-end cars in his waiting room, and that was another one that I absolutely loved because of the detail. Like, there's a lot of detail in that one. But to be honest, it's really hard with everything I have done because I've been painting at Science North as well, and so the Science North murals I do, they're massive, and there's so many people that get to see it. It's pretty great what they have me do, and the designers right now that I'm working with, Russell Jensen is one of them, the main designer out there, and we get to do some really cool work. I just finished a jungle room in there last month, and so I feel like the last one's always my favorite. There's always going to be a next cool one. And so I can't really pick. I just know that's the people I get to work with make it the most fun every time. Trust in what was coming, because again, it's the idea that I think when I was working as hard as I was to build up a name and a business, I don't think I was ever that confident that it was actually going to work. My father, every year come September, would offer to pay for my college because I had never gone to Cambrian. I didn't go to any college. I just opened my store straight out of high school. And so I think I was always under the understanding that if it didn't work out, I always had a fallback plan to go to school. And so I guess in a way to trust my instincts is what I would have told my younger self, because I don't think that I ever believed in myself that much. I just followed the cues. I followed what I wanted in life. I just never really knew it was going to work out. So there was a lot of stress involved, and there was a lot of hoping and a lot of work. So maybe now that I'm talking it out, the one thing I would have told my younger self is to chill, to relax. It'll happen regardless of the not sleeping Because there was some nights I'd sleep maybe 3-4 hours a night trying to make sure I did my commissions and did the pieces I needed to finish. And so I think if anything, the one thing I tell my younger self is to not stress myself out so much, that life is going to happen how it's going to happen, and take it as it comes. Next on my schedule, the cool thing is, since you guys have taken over the studio, which I love, by the way, what's next on my schedule is working from home and creating more art, and getting to focus solely on creating rather than being in the public eye, I guess. With the studio always came the people, which I love the people, to be honest. I do miss it a whole lot, like having clients come in and having chats and getting people to bring me coffees and whatever. But being able to be at home and create, it's a whole other feeling. Again, working since I was 13 years old, I've never really had it. I've never had a holiday. I've never had a break. So the last year has pretty much been the longest break I've ever had, while still creating and being creative. I do have an art show at Art Gallery this summer. So that's in July. I have my own solo show again, which I'm really proud of, and that's what I'm creating for at the moment. But always trying to keep you guys filled with new pieces is a tough one too. And so I guess in a way is just continuously trying to create in a new fashion at this point, and while I get to focus on it. I've also been given the chance to revive the Sudbury Art Crawl, which I'm really excited for. The downtown Sudbury Art Crawl, which was the original Lisa Bira creation. And so that should be happening. I was hoping this spring, may not happen till the fall. But so that I'll be working with as many artists and businesses interested to bring that back. That was one of the best events downtown for artists anyway. So I'm hoping to be able to have that happen again this year.